The 1290 Days of Daniel 12. Welcome to 2011 Studies. This is part 2 of this series. Last study we looked at the possibility of the 1290 days from Purim 2024 to the start of the 1335 days, which is Trumpets 2027. I'll put that chart up again. Sometimes I think that people just hop on here, they don't subscribe or like, and they just listen really quick, not really knowing what the 1335 days is about. But I'll put that up there pretty much on every first part of the study. There's very similar language concerning the 2300 literal days or evenings, or evening mornings, I should say. And I wanted to compare the two. I wanted to establish the fact that this is not talking about 2,300 years. It's very precise in God's language how He uses evenings and mornings. This is Daniel 12:11.
Daniel 12:11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. 12. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,335 days. 13. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest, and stand in thy lot at the end of the days.
Okay, this is Daniel 8:8.
Daniel 8:8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. 10. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced, and prospered. 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? 14. And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Okay, the first thing we need to do is establish if these are literal days or does each day equal a year. The day for a year principle is a thing in the Bible, but when God uses that principle, He normally mentions it, like one day for a year. This is Numbers 14:33.
Numbers 14:33. And your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms, until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. 34. After the number of the days in which ye searched the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise.
There are certain congregations that suggest that the 2,300 days represents years from one date to the next, 2,300 years down the road. This is a little portion that I got offline, and this is what they've concluded, and I just can't see this even being a remote possibility. It concludes that the time period of the prophecies certainly begins in the autumn of 457 BC, probably on the Day of Atonement, October 30th, and ends on the Day of Atonement in AD 1844. Okay, I want to dispel any possibility that these are years. These are precise days. They're called in the Bible evening mornings. And the only other places that's used, well, there's a couple places evenings, mornings are used, but Genesis in the days of creation is one of them. So for whatever reason, they chose 557 BC, possibly the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, and then land 2,300 years later in 1844. So 457 plus 1844 is 2,301 years, 2,301 years, and you minus the 1 year since there is no year 0, and they settled on 23 years instead of literal days. Now, if the Bible did already not first settle this, then yeah, anything's a possibility. But it did settle it, and that's in the language of Daniel 8, actually. So let's read Daniel 8:26.
Daniel 8:26 And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true, wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days.
So right there, you can see that these are literal days, and the prophecy of Daniel does not follow a day for a year principle. These are literal days. There are a few times I am aware that evening and morning being used, such as it was in creation. Genesis 1:5.
Genesis 1:5, And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Genesis 1:8, And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Genesis 1:31, And God saw everything that he had made, and, behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
Wait a minute. You hear people say this, oh, wait a minute. Couldn't this be separated by thousands of years? The answer is no. It's not. The Bible defines evening as dusk and morning as dawn or break of day. Hebrew 6153, Arab is dusk, and Hebrew 12:42 is boker, properly dawn, as the break of the day. So I don't know why people try to limit God. I really don't. I mean, he's God. He can create things in 6 days and rest on the seventh day. How hard is that for him? It's not. And I don't know why people in their minds try to, even Christians do this, and that's really sad, because you should know the Bible better than that. If you're proclaiming that it's separated by thousands of years. No, it's not. Now let's look again at the verses of the evening and morning found in Daniel. There are certain words used below that confirm that the period of time is speaking of none other than the latter time, when the transgressors are come to the full. This is Daniel 8:23. Now, dark sentences is another word, or two words, for parables, or God's word, a puzzle. Jesus spoke in parables. So when you see that dark sentences, and some translations are really bad, they've translated that as evil connotations, and it's not anywhere near. That is just the polar opposite of what it's saying. It's saying God's word, his parables, dark sentences. I don't know why they would settle for dark sentences, really, but that's what the King James did. King of fierce countenance, stout-faced. Deuteronomy 28:49.
Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Pretty similar language. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Let's see. And this is verse 24. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to read this portion of Daniel, and then I'm going to paraphrase it with the ISA, just for better understanding of what these words are saying. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and he shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Now this is a paraphrase from the ISA. He is staunch, vigor of him, and not vigor of him, and being marvelous, he shall ruin, and he prospers, and he does, and he ruins staunch ones and people of the holy ones. Only one other time is marvelous used in the Old Testament. It relates to God. So in other words, this is saying that he's lifting himself up to be as God with this deception, with the deceit. We can confirm this through other passages that Satan attempts to be as God, but in his case, he destroys by being marvelous. He ruins staunch ones and people of the holy ones. This is Job 9:9, and it talks about God being marvelous, him doing great things. You know, when you look at this language, it's a lot, well, it's very similar. When you talk about one will be marvelous, and then God is going to be marvelous. Satan will do great things, and then God will do great things. A complete reversal. So God's in control, he allows it to happen, and then he does great things. So that's what the whole Joel 2, read that whole chapter and see what goes on there. And when he removes the northern, who is Satan, and into a land barren and desolate. I can't remember if we ever got into the term the land barren and desolate. I can't remember, but that'd be an interesting thing for the next study to just sort of insert that in there. I'll have to make a note on that. So this is Job 9:9.
Job 9:9, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. 10, which doeth great things past finding out, yea, and wonders without number. 11, lo, he goeth by me, and I see him not, he passeth on also, but I perceive him not.
Okay, back to Daniel. This is verse 25. And through his policy he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. When you see that language, it means he shall be vanquished without power, broken without hand. Now the ISA, this is the ISA's look on these words. And on intelligence of him he causes to prosper deceit. In hand of him and in heart of him he shall be magnified, or he shall magnify himself. And in ease, that's the word peace, in ease he shall ruin many ones. And in chief of chiefs, no, that should be, and on chief of chiefs, he shall stand, and in limit of hand he shall be broken. So, in other words, he takes on Christ, but his power is limited. When it says limit of hand, he shall be broken. Now this is the remaining part of Daniel, and it's 26 and 27. I might as well just read this. It's not that much, and we're almost done here. I really wanted to establish, though, that the days are literal 2300 evenings and mornings, and the 1290 chances are good that that's literal too. In the vision, okay, this is verse 26. And the vision of the evening and morning, which was told, is true. Wherefore, shut up the vision, for it shall be many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. So both Daniel 8 and Daniel 12 have mention of the daily. Whatever the daily represents, it's all about Christ. Whether it's the showbread, the light, the sacrifice, it's all about Christ. And as I was studying this, I got this just impression that this vision was all about Satan going into the sanctuary, taking the daily, lifting it up, and then just slamming it to the ground. That's what the language led me to. And it's like, okay, so I started looking, and I didn't put this in this study here because I'm still looking at it. I'm trying to think if there's anything in the Old Testament that would show this kind of overthrow. And there was, and I'm still looking at it, so I'm not going to comment it too much about now. But the fact that he takes the daily, he lifts it, he exalts it, and then just slams it to the ground, casting truth to the ground. And when you see what's happening in the congregations today, it's really something else. I remember, actually, it was a year ago today, because today is the Super Bowl, that I stopped watching that years ago, that this service was going on in church before the Super Bowl, and I don't know why they would do this, but they did it. And this is what's happening in the church. This is similar to some of the nonsense that's going on. They had goalposts on the stage, and somebody was holding the Bible with their hand like a football, and then the woman comes along, she kicks it into the goalpost. She kicks the Bible. Okay, you're treading on some very, very serious stuff when you're doing stuff like that. And it reminded me of the time that Jeremiah's prophecy wasn't accepted, and the penknife was taken and cut up and thrown into the fire, and then God tells Jeremiah, write it again, write it all down again. It's like the mockery of God's word is expected, I guess you would say, in the world. You would expect it, because Christ said that, that similar language of, if the world hated me, then they'll hate you. It's just accepted. But when you see that in the houses of God and some of the nonsense going on, it's like, man, we are in this time. There's no doubt about it. Trying to piece the timelines together is pretty much another issue, but we're working on it, and we're trying to get this all. I'm just thrilled that we know the 1335 days, because it doesn't apply to every group of 3 years, 3.5 years, but it does apply to certain ones. So we should be able to, once we enter the right one, we should be able to see the blessed aspect of blessed is he who waits and comes to the days of 1335. Let's see. So when we're looking at the showbread, the light, the sacrifice, it's all related to Christ. The thing is, though, Daniel 12 speaks of this abomination being set up, yet Daniel 8 mentions that both the daily being taken away and also the desolation. So I was really curious about that, because it was always like, well, wait a minute, could the 1290 possibly fit within the 2300 days? I don't think the 2300 days has happened yet. I really don't. Unless we're in it right now, because it says, and then after 2300 days, the sanctuary should be made righteous, or the sanctuary should be made clean. I don't know. I'm going to have to look more into this, but at this point, I just don't see it as being the sanctuary, the houses of God being cleansed. I don't know. Daniel 8:13, and this is the last verse, and then we will look at both of those terms found in that one passage of Daniel 12, or Daniel 8, that mentions both the daily taken away and also the desolation set up, and completion. It seems like a completion of it at the end of the 2300 days. Daniel 8:13.
Daniel 8:13, Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? 14, And he said unto me, Unto 2300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
So I hope this helps a little bit as we continue to study this topic. I've been sort of absorbed in this. I just can't tell you. It's been one of those things where I enjoy reading the book of Daniel. The whole thing about the captivity of Babylon, everything about it. So it's because I think what it's doing in the book of Daniel, we're actually reliving history on a spiritual level in our time, the things that happened in Daniel. And it's super important, because it's like God gave us these timelines. People can argue that no man can know the day or the hour, then without fully understanding those verses. It's like we have a lot of information that we can narrow down, especially the 1335 days, because what God told Daniel, the angel told Daniel, was to go his way and he will stand in his lot, in his inheritance at the end of the days. So right there, we're honing in on 1335 days coming to an end, and the inheritance being inherited by not only Daniel but all believers. So the importance of the 1335 days, I think, has really sort of exalted God's word to be part of that in our time, to know, so we can know that the coming of Christ is at the gates. And I really believe that 2027 to 2031 at this present time has a great possibility of being the final 1335 days. And I say that with the exception of from Pentecost to the last day of Tabernacles being 133 days, which that pattern exists in all of the years that have 1335 days. It's always 133 days, which is 1/10 of 1335. So that's a possibility too, because the Feast of Tabernacles is mentioned in regards to the last day, and that's somewhat important. So, whether God does a short work during that time, it's really hard to know exactly what's going to go on, but still, it's 4 months, and that verse talks about 4 months to the harvest. So we have that aspect too. But I think this is where we are at right now. We are looking at the 1290 days, the 2300 evenings and mornings, and also the 1335 days, which at the end of that period of time, the inheritance happens. We'll be standing in our inheritance, and that will be something way better than this earth, than this present world. So with everything, all the craziness going on, stay tuned. Please like these studies, subscribe, do whatever you can to help. Share them. That would be a big help too, because the more people share them and then they like them, it'll get out to more people. That's just the way it works at YouTube. So anyway, thank you again. My name is Marty Catuzzo. The email is 2011studies@gmail.com, 2011studies@gmail.com, or put your questions. If anything in this study you have questions on, put them in there. If I don't know the answer right away, I'll study it and then I'll respond in a couple days. Anyway, thank you, and God bless you.